This video contains spoilers from both Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. Viewer discretion is advised. After over 100 hours, my adventure in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has finally come to an end. It's something that was inevitable, but I still didn't want to say goodbye to this beautifully crafted world.
And hello to you too!
This is a world filled with all kinds of excitement, iconic landscapes, and lovable characters. And today I wanted to walk through the several aspects of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth I loved most, and why it's become another one of my favorite games of all time.
Whoa!
Pretty sappy, huh? Meant every word, though.
After starting Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it didn't take too long to realize just how much passion and effort was poured into rebuilding the wonderful world of the original Final Fantasy VII, released on the PlayStation 1 in 1997. I played the original much later on in life, but it still had a profound impact on me even then. I can't thank the FF7 Rebirth's director, Naoki Hamaguchi, and the rest of the development team over at Square Enix for their efforts to not only enhance everything seen in the old game, but to also breathe even more life into this new rendition of the world. In the new Rebirth ULTIMANIA, it stated that the team was relatively unchanged from the prequel, Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was said to make life a lot easier when it came to carrying over assets into the new game. Along with the help of the now creative director, Tetsuya Nomura, who birthed the designs of the iconic main cast, Kazushige Nojima, the writer of the original FF7, co-director Motomu Toriyama, and Yoshinori Kitase, the director of the original Final Fantasy VII, there was no doubt that Rebirth would be another special game. And I can safely say, this game is exactly that.
And there it was, the first step on our new journey. You coming? Yeah.
Of course we are.
After the conclusion of Remake, the crew end up leaving Midgar in search of more answers on the whereabouts of Sephiroth, and to find out what exactly he's trying to do. In the original, this is the part where the game transformed into an open world adventure, and Rebirth reflects that on a much grander scale, of course due to the power of the technology we have today. Remake had beautiful environments and really took advantage of its linear style, but somehow, the team managed to keep that same level of quality throughout the open regions of Rebirth, and it was a joy for me to travel through, discovering all kinds of hidden areas, collectibles, mini-games, and exciting encounters with a variety of enemies.
Wanted to tell Bean Girl?
Don't piss it off more!
Focus, guys.
Speaking of which, the combat is incredible in Rebirth, taking everything from Remake to another level.
Here we go.
Starting off in Calm was amazing. It felt so full of life, and that is a common theme throughout many areas in the game. NPCs around the area all had unique and fun conversations you could overhear as you passed them, and the layout of each of these areas were designed with so much detail, even in areas that didn't have much importance to the gameplay or story.
She's late. Too late. Or am I here too early? Was getting here a day ahead of time overkill?
This level of detail made me want to explore every corner of the area to see what fun little things they snuck in I could find. It's definitely an upgrade from Remake, and that was well done too.
Let's get started then, shall we? Come to me. Airplane, follow the smoke!
Of course, it wouldn't be an open world game without vehicles to travel across vast spaces. And just like the original, Rebirth provides several modes of transport, each with their own unique traits, especially the lovable chocobos.
This here's Fango. He's taken quite a liking to you. Sure, he'd be more than happy to give you guys a lift.
It feels like whenever you run into something on the map and complete it, there's immediately something else that grabs your attention, like a baby chocobo leading you to a new rest spot, or a bird guiding you to a life spring. If you're riding your chocobo, it can also sense something buried nearby, which would either net you a collectible or some useful crafting material. The world is packed full of things to explore, and I spent so many hours doing that instead of progressing the main story. That's partly because I love completing everything, but at the same time most of it was all fun to do anyway, besides a few minigames that were more frustrating than anything, honestly. The game rewards you well for exploring, but it would have been better if the main story guided us through the map of each region, where we would end up encountering the side content naturally, rather than making me feel like I'm putting the story on pause for long periods of time just to clear up all the content. It's a weird situation where the game slightly suffers from having so much good content to engage in besides the main missions.
Whoa,
I know you snuck a shot of me earlier.
nothing sneaky about it.
Despite the overwhelming amount of content, as I took my time engaging in every little aspect of the game, it gave me a chance to really appreciate all the different areas. Junon was particularly impressive, showing off the grand scale of Shinra as a company, as well as running through the beautiful moody lighting in the Mithril Mines, or soaring through the skies of Cosmo Canyon and Nibelheim on my favorite chocobos. The art direction in general for this game is some of the best I've ever seen, and it's just as iconic as the original from way back then.
Look! Look! Something's coming!
The Golden Saucer was another incredible portion of the game for me. They really nailed the vibrant and fun nature of the area from the original, making sure all the areas had their own little unique atmospheres. It works well as a place you have to return to multiple times, as it never got old to me, especially the 3D brawler one.
Nothing personal.
On top of all this, I was treated to the incredible music while making my way through all these unique areas, just to add the cherry on top. To me, the music is fundamental to the experience of any RPG, and after loving the music in Remake, I was excited to see what new tracks would be introduced in this game. The legendary composer of the original FF7 and many other games, Nobuo Uematsu, returned again to compose the game's main theme, No Promises to Keep, and many other talented composers and arrangers, mainly Mitsuto Suzuki and Masashi Hamauzu, contributed to the entire soundtrack, carrying on Uematsu's work in the best way possible.
Wow, that was amazing!
Again, I was blown away by the level of passion poured into this game. It was present in every corner of the map I visited, and really helped to make my experience one I would never forget. This was only the beginning of the amazing things done by the development team over at Square Enix. As for me, something else stole the limelight. The characters.
Okay, now that the gang's all here,
He's trespassing, like
Where
you.
to, folks?
for this kind of thing.
Just keep an eye on him while I'm gone, okay?
Yeah, but let's find a hotel and shower first. Then we can go.
You better not be suggesting we all hit the beach.
First of all, I absolutely love the main cast in this game. From their iconic designs to the incredible voice acting behind them. I couldn't help but become even more interested in them than I ever was before.
You okay?
Yeah.
I want to take this time to talk about my favorite of them all, Tifa. I think she was written beautifully in this game, in a way that added many layers to her character that were not as prevalent in Remake. She was a favorite of mine before, but through many scenes in this game, she became very relatable, and a character I really cared for in the story in particular.
Not surprised. I was a pain in the ass as a kid.
I was the opposite. I needed everyone to like me all the time. Part of me still does, I think. Kinda hate that about myself.
It's safe to say that currently she's now one of my favorite video game characters of all time. This level of fondness for a character doesn't happen often, so again it's a testament to the team who worked on the game, for their masterful storytelling and character writing.
If you don't mind, I'd like to be alone.
Are you angry?
Mm-hmm.
At me?
Not at you. At everything.
Aerith and Cloud aren't too far behind for me, as both had extremely compelling journeys throughout the game, forcing them to experience many different emotions that were acted out by their voice actresses and actors beautifully, on top of their great character animation. It was a joy to watch them in scenes where they banter with each other, and tear-jerking in the sad, emotional ones. This goes for the rest of the cast too, with Barrett's tragic backstory, Nanaki's coming of age, and Yuffie's bright personality stealing the show, despite the trauma she hides underneath.
However, if you manage to somehow fluke your way to victory, this amazing ninja will agree to join you. What do you say? Oh, it's like that, huh? Where's your pride? Your fighting spirit? What's the matter? Afraid you're about to catch a beat down? Oh, wait. Seriously?
As well as making Nanaki and Yuffie playable party members this time around, Rebirth introduced 3 new main cast members, Kate Sith, Sid, and Vincent, with Vincent being my favorite addition, even in the original.
Security.
His introductory scene perfectly encapsulates his character and hyped him up for his inclusion in the rest of the game, despite the fact that he and Sid weren't playable here. I wonder what they'll do before or after the release of the next game, seeing as Vincent had his own side game, Dirge of Cerberus, back in 2006 for the PS2. Even though that game wasn't great, it could be fun for multiple characters to have these solo adventures like Yuffie did in the Integrate DLC released before Rebirth.
It really helps, knowing I'm not alone in all this.
Yeah, same here.
The wonderful characterization of the cast goes beyond the cutscenes and large set pieces too. Even in smaller segments throughout the game with side missions, or speaking to the characters during some downtime in safe areas, they're packed with fun and interesting lines that really bring them to life. I loved a lot of Yuffie's lines, as she's either singing along to her own theme song, or even off in her own world.
I am so bored right out of my brain.
Nice song. Funny, too. Wrote it yourself?
Finally, someone recognizes my genius.
The strong chemistry the game portrays between the party can easily be felt too, as they constantly banter between each other as you're exploring. It's always fun to hear what each of them have to say about the current situation at hand.
Guide me, oh Tifa.
Come, my child.
This game also featured a bond system now, where you could increase your bond between the party members by teaming up with them in fights and giving the best responses during specific, optional conversations you can have with them.
I kinda wanted everyone to get it, though.
To hell with everyone.
Great advice. Thanks.
I love this purely for the fact that it gave even more depth to each character. These scenes helped explore what each character of the party is going through, what their goals are, and what they've changed their minds on throughout the journey due to what they've witnessed. The same goes for Cloud too, and the responses you can give with him, as these are mostly the scenes where you see him act like his quote-unquote regular self, as throughout the game, Cloud really struggles with his identity. This plays heavily into where the story goes, and where it looks to be headed for the final game. But I'll talk about that more later.
No freaking way!
Avalanche.
Aside from the main cast, all the supporting cast, from allies to enemies, have received a great deal of love from the devs too. I loved running into most of them throughout the game, especially the new Turk, Elena.
Sit! You're not getting past me. I'm a Turk, god damn it!
So much personality flows out most of the characters you meet throughout the game, making cutscenes fun and engaging to listen to, as well as aiding in making me care about the little stories surrounding these characters and side quests. I really enjoyed the Queen's Blood storyline, as well as the Proto-Relic Hunt, which incorporates story from the first remake and integrate DLC. I can't forget about mentioning Chadley here too, who returns from remake, accompanied by his funny new companion Mai, who he argues with throughout the game, which is ironic since he's the one who created her. Some may find them annoying, but their arguments throughout the game made me laugh a good few times, so I appreciate their inclusion.
Magnificent work, Cloud. Have this region's fiends proved a fitting challenge?
One glance at the data will tell you they are clearly no match for him.
I don't recall asking you. If you haven't noticed, I'm trying to have a conversation with Cloud, so please quit.
Cloud, if you're in need of a challenge, know that another combat trial awaits you.
The Junon section of the story also had me laughing a few times, but on top of the humor, it also did a great job of humanizing the Shinra soldiers, seeing them bonding and socializing with both your party while undercover and each other. I'm constantly repeating myself, but it has to be said. There were so many decisions in Rebirth that successfully aided in creating a living, breathing world that I can't praise the dev team enough for. Also, the bold bar was too good.
This your first time? If you want to drink with us, you're gonna have to lose the helmets. No scout, no service.
There were so many moments throughout the game that made me smile or let out a little laugh. It's funny because all the joyous moments work to catch you off guard when the tone of the main story eventually begins to take a sinister turn. For anyone who has played the original, you all know about their underlying darkness throughout this series' story. And in Rebirth, that aspect is also brought to new heights, amplifying the stakes from the original and delivering shocking scenes for both new and old fans alike, through clever deviations from the original in the writing.
But I'm no fool.
Because of the way this game amplifies the characters in terms of their backstories, personalities, and presentation, it naturally makes the emotional scenes hit so much harder than they did in the original.
Sometimes, I don't even know who I am. I forget things everyone else remembers just fine, and know things I've got no right knowing. It's like there's different people inside of me. And the worst part is, I can't even tell where they end and I begin.
Go on.
Soldiers' cells degrade. I think that's what's happening to me. That I'm falling apart.
That's not going to happen to you.
As I mentioned before, throughout the entire game, there are many points where each of the main cast and important side characters from other titles open up and reveal to us the troubles they have been struggling with, even more so than they did in Remake.
I start thinking things so dark and ugly that it scares me.
we can clearly see the weight of the quest at hand take its toll on them, especially with Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa. Between Cloud struggling with his sense of self, Tifa's concern for his mental state and her own motivation for fighting, to Aerith's confusion in what her role is in this story. There's a lot for us to unpack and theorize on, since this game brings up a lot of questions without offering many concrete answers.
Can you tell me what this scary man looked like? Please?
His hair was long and gray.
I personally don't like extremely vague symbolism and imagery in storytelling, which was something I was hoping this game wouldn't lean too much into, and thankfully it didn't. There are unexplainable things that happen, but the story is still comprehensible enough to keep me interested to see where things could go. It also nicely opens up the possibility to theorycraft, which many people have been doing since the first remake game, and it's always fun to hear other people's interpretations on specific scenes, as well as the overall story so far.
I'm sorry. Whatever happens, don't blame yourself.
Finally, near the end of the game, we're brought back to the inevitable death of Aerith. Although this time round, Cloud appeared to have saved her, either in our current timeline or a different world, or even in his own twisted perception of reality. This really opens up the possibility to serve as a tipping point to breaking down Cloud in a different way from the original game. I can see this new chain of events having even more of an impact on us as players emotionally, and I feel there inevitably will be a scene where he has to wake up and realize she's gone and will never come back. I can already imagine the drama that will come about from the rest of the party trying to convince Cloud to accept a different reality they've seen to experience.
And so it begins. A confluence of worlds and emotions. Loss, chief among them. It engulfs fleeting moments of joy, transforming them into rage, sadness, hatred. Never have I felt them so keenly.
Sephiroth since Remake seems to have a new role as the antagonist in the series, where he seems to know about the events of the original FF7, and is trying to alter things in his favor. We get more of that in this game, but I feel there's so much more that can be done with him in the next to add more layers to his character, like Nojima has already done with the main party.
Zack? How's about we save the catching up for later?
Zack's role in the overall story here has grown significantly, especially with the larger emphasis on his relationship with Aerith, and it also adds more to the ambiguity of our feelings for Cloud. A lot of plot points are purposefully made to be more ambiguous, leaving more up to interpretation for us. I can't say whether this is a good or bad thing for now, as it all depends whether the ending of this all has enough answers to satisfy us as a player.
Oh.
Leaving you out in the cold like this? Forget about that loser.
Get that shit out of here! Yeah!
The ending of the game was truly a spectacle, featuring scenes I and many others expected, but were presented in ways I didn't see coming. The ending especially left a lot of room for speculation, definitely by design. Scenes that make you question characters' thoughts and intentions were sprinkled throughout the last few hours, and I haven't stopped thinking about them since.
I underestimated you.
As I briefly mentioned before, it seems as though the main characters have been perceiving different realities from each other, which now throws all their current thoughts and motives up in the air for the next game. So, what's next? Well, obviously the third and what I would presume final entry to the remake series. Nomura mentioned recently that he's been wondering about how to tackle where to land the airship in this version of the game. As in the original, you get access to one in the latter portion, allowing you to fly all over the map with even more freedom than the boat we got to travel with in Rebirth. This clearly hints at the fact that we'll be getting an airship in the next game, although it will be quite a technical challenge to make it work with a game as detailed as this one. He also mentioned ideas on how to portray the giant weapons too, and travel on the ocean floor. It's safe to say the third game might just be even larger than Rebirth, with even more freedom and exploration, which would be incredible.
Only one man has mastered the land, air, and sea, and you're looking at him. You got that?
This new game, of course, will introduce new events that develop the story and characters further. I can't wait to see what they do with the Yuffie this time around, as Wutai declared another war with Shinra in this game, and she's a character caught right in between it all. She's another personal favorite of mine, so it would be nice to see her have a bigger role in more main story events this time around, especially since we'll be going to Wutai, an area in the original game you could visit quite early on. I also need to see Nero and Vice, the antagonists from the Integrate DLC, return, and get a conclusion to that story, as them and Yuffie clearly have some unfinished business. This will serve as a good point to involve Vincent to the storyline too, as Nero and Vice were characters introduced in Dirge of Cerberus. Although since the game was based a few years after the end of the original FF7, there would have to be a new story written here to make sense with the current timeline.
Is this how you want your story to end?
Speaking of Vincent, we should be able to play as him and Sid in the next game, just like in the original, who I'm sure will have both very interesting gameplay styles, just like Nanaki and Cait Sith in Rebirth, as well as a deeper look into their personalities and backstories. I also really loved playing as Zack briefly, where he's more focused on revving up his charge level to perform bigger and stronger attacks. It had the similar gimmick to revving up Nero's weapon in the Devil May Cry games, with well-timed button presses to quick charge after every hit, which was really fun. The combat in Rebirth never got old to me, and with all these new additions next time round, I can't see myself getting bored with the next game either.
Just as worlds unite, so too do they part. But who's to say they can't unite again?
The dev team have a lot of work in their hands, attempting to make a sequel that could top Rebirth, since a lot of things in the new game may not be new to us. The jump from Remake to Rebirth introduced so much, with its open world and overhauled combat system, so we'll just have to see how the team plan on approaching things in order to keep it very fresh. But so far, I have full trust in them based off the work they've done so far. I thought about the idea of the final game becoming a more linear experience again, due to where in the story Rebirth ended. Following Aerith's supposed death, with this game's more cinematic nature than the original, it's hard to see a game where we're thrown back into running around the world, doing all kinds of side quests and fun minigames right after such a tragic event. Tonally, I think it wouldn't make as much sense in this case, so I wonder how that would be tackled in the next title. From the way Nomura and other devs have been talking about the next title, I'm very sure the next will be an open world game, but I personally wouldn't be opposed to the idea of things becoming more linear again. The new merger of worlds attempted by Sephiroth at the end could be a plot point to lean on, to excuse another open world adventure, with the party finding out the timelines have been crossed, and encountering all kinds of weird phenomena because of it. According to the Rebirth ULTIMANIA, there are 7 different worlds in total, including the one that we spend our time in, which you can notice from the different designs of Stampy the dog that show up in various cutscenes. I expect to see more exploration through them all in the next game, which could take up a lot of playtime.
This is my life. I make the rules. See you never!
Kitase has mentioned the third game will most likely be his last involvement with FF7 due to his age. I had no doubts this would be a trilogy of games, but it's looking like that would definitely be the case with what's being said here. We shouldn't be waiting long either, as the main story for the last game has been completed, and the voice recording should be starting fairly soon. So, After rebuilding the world of Final Fantasy VII and reigniting its story through brand new scenarios revolving these amazing characters, I can't wait to see what happens in the next game. Although we'll be seeing a few more things reimagined from the original, I'm expecting the final chapter to have many more new surprises. And if done right, this will be one incredible conclusion.
It's not fair. All I want is one thing. To keep the others safe.
Aerith?
They mean so much to me.
The hell?